The invitation. Ethan sat in his dorm room at the Intergalactic Youth Academy. The stars outside his window looked calm, but inside his chest, his heart was beating fast. He had just received a message. It wasn't from his best friend Xelu. It wasn't from one of his teachers. It was from Lady Aranya, Xelu's mother. The message was short, just one sentence. Ethan, come to my house. It's important. Come now. Lady Aranya. It was strange. Xelu hadn't told him anything about this. And it was late. Very late. Most students were already asleep. Ethan looked at the clock. It was past curfew. Leaving the dorm now could get him in serious trouble. He hesitated. Maybe he should ignore it. Maybe it was a mistake. But something in the message felt urgent, serious, like something was wrong. He grabbed his jacket and quietly opened the door. The hallway was dark and silent. He moved quickly, avoiding the security cameras. Then he slipped out through a maintenance tunnel near the edge of campus. The night air was cold. Ethan walked fast across the garden paths, heading toward the upper district. That's where Xelu's family lived, high-ranking nobles from the planet Serkai. Their house was made of silver stone and glowing crystal towers. It looked like a castle from a dream. As he got closer, the gates opened on their own. No guards stopped him. No lights came on. The silence was heavy. He stepped inside. The hallway smelled like sweet herbs. Soft lights glowed along the walls. The floor was smooth and clean. Usually, this house was full of music, laughter, or the soft hum of alien machines. Tonight, it was too quiet. Then he saw her. Lady Aranya stood at the end of the hall. She wore a long silver robe. Her skin was a soft shade of violet, and her eyes shimmered like stars. Ethan, she said gently. You came. Good. Ethan nodded. Is Xelu okay? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned and began walking. Come. We must talk in private. Ethan followed her, confused. They entered a round room with floating chairs and a glass ceiling that showed the stars above. She motioned for him to sit. He sat. She stood. I didn't call you here for tea, she said. Ethan tried to smile. Yeah, I figured. She gave him a look. Not angry. Not sad. Just serious. Too serious. Xelu is missing, she said quietly. Ethan sat up straight. Missing? What do you mean? He left for a field trip 3 days ago, she said. The school said everything was normal. But he never came back. No one will tell me the truth. Ethan's throat felt dry. Why didn't you go to the authorities? I did, she said. They said I was overreacting. They said my son is fine. But I know my son. I know something's wrong. She moved to the wall and pressed her hand against it. A small screen appeared. It showed a video. Ethan leaned in. It was Xelu, walking with a group of students near a glowing cave. They were laughing. Then something strange happened. A light, a dark purple light, opened behind Xelu. Like a doorway, a shadowy hand reached out. Xelu turned around, his face confused. Then he vanished. Just like that. Gone. Ethan's blood ran cold. What was that? A portal. Lady Aranya nodded. A rift. A kind of wormhole. Not natural. Someone opened it. Someone took him. Who? Ethan asked. She took a deep breath. There's a group, a secret one. They call themselves the Eclipsed Ones. They hate humans. They believe Earthlings are dangerous. Ethan blinked. But Xelu isn't human. No, she said, but you are. And you're his best friend. That makes you dangerous to them. Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd heard rumors of such groups. But he didn't think they were real. I've studied their methods, she said. They use psychic control. They can trap minds. Bend them. But there's something special about you, Ethan. You have a rare gift. A gift. She stepped closer. You're resistant to their powers. I don't know why yet. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's something else. But I believe you're the only one who can save my son. Ethan stared at her. His heart was pounding. You want me to go after him? Yes, she said. I have a ship ready. I have someone who can help guide you, but you must decide. Right now. We don't have much time. Ethan looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, his best friend was trapped, alone, maybe afraid. He stood up. I'll do it. Lady Arenya nodded slowly. Then she walked to a hidden panel and pressed a button. A section of the wall slid open. Inside was a strange-looking weapon, locked in a crystal case. It looked old, ancient, but powerful. She placed her hand on the case and whispered something in her own language. The crystal cracked open. She lifted the weapon and held it out to Ethan. This belonged to Xelu's real father, she said. He died protecting others. Now, it's your turn. Ethan reached out and took the weapon. It felt warm. It felt right. The secret she's been hiding. The weapon pulsed in Ethan's hand like a living thing. It wasn't like any tech he had seen before. It was long and smooth, shaped almost like a spear crossed with a staff. Strange symbols glowed along its side, symbols that shifted every time he blinked. What is this? He whispered. Lady Arenya stepped back, folding her hands. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of memories, some that looked painful. It's called a shard blade, she said. A relic from before the Galactic Accord, forged by hand, bonded by blood. It only responds to certain minds. Minds like yours. Ethan turned it over slowly. It was heavier than it looked. Why me? I told you, she said, her voice lower now. You're not like the others. Ethan looked up. Because I'm human. Arenya shook her head once. Not just human. You're something rare. We've known for years that some humans are immune to psionic influence, mind control, memory rewriting, dreamscaping. But you, Ethan, your resistance is total. He stared at her, stunned. How do you know that? She turned away and walked toward a large round window that looked out onto the garden. Pale moons lit the trees below. She stood there in silence for a moment before speaking. Because we tested you. Years ago. Ethan blinked. Wait. What? It was quiet, she continued. It wasn't meant to harm you. Just observe. When you arrived at the academy, your name triggered an old protocol. You matched a human genome we'd seen once before. My people had to be sure. You ran tests on me without asking. She didn't look back. We had to know. And what we found. It frightened us. Ethan stepped back slightly. What exactly did you find? She finally turned around. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. We found the same psionic immunity in you. That was found in a man who once took down an entire cult alone. A human who infiltrated the Eclipsed Ones and destroyed their base from the inside. Ethan's mouth went dry. Who was he? She walked back toward him slowly, her silver robe brushing the floor. That man, she said softly, was Xelu's father. The room felt like it had tilted sideways. Ethan couldn't speak. Lady Arenya continued. He never told anyone who he really was, not even Xelu. It was too dangerous. After the mission, he disappeared. They said he died in a shuttle accident. I never believed it. So, Ethan tried to find the right words. You think I'm related to him? She shook her head. No. But I think the same people who took him now have Xelu, and they want to finish what they started. Ethan sat down hard in the floating chair behind him. His mind was spinning. He had come here thinking something might be wrong, but not like this. Not missing friends, secret cults, mind powers, and ancient weapons. And not this deep, cold feeling that he was suddenly part of something far bigger than himself. Lady Arenya moved to a table and pressed her palm to a panel. A map of the galaxy appeared in midair. It zoomed in on a dark patch of space. No stars, no planets, Just shadows. The place where the portal opened, she said. It leads to the Umbra Fold, a blind zone between systems. No light, no signal, no rules. Ethan stood up slowly. And you want me to go in there? I want you to bring my son home, she said. But I won't send you in alone. She tapped the map again. A new figure appeared. A humanoid with sharp features, short gray hair, and eyes like metal. This is Cal. He's not part of the academy. He's an old friend of mine. He operates in shadows. Ethan squinted. A smuggler. She smiled faintly. Among other things. Just then, the hiss came from the hallway. The door opened, and Cal stepped inside. He was tall, scared, and clearly unimpressed by Ethan. He glanced at the shard blade in Ethan's hand and raised an eyebrow. This is the kid? Cal asked. Ethan frowned. You got a problem. Cal gave a dry laugh. Only if I have to babysit you in a dead zone filled with mindjackers and cult freaks. Lady Arenia stepped between them. Enough. You will work together. Ethan is more important than you understand. Cal didn't look convinced, but he gave a short nod. Ethan held the blade tighter. He didn't trust Cal either, but if this guy could help him reach Xelu, he'd deal with it. Arenia moved toward a side door. Come. We don't have long. They followed her into a hidden hangar beneath the house. Inside was a small black ship, sleek and silent. It looked like it had no weapons, but Ethan knew better. This was a Ghost-class vessel. Illegal, stealth-enabled, practically invisible in deep space. Cal stepped into the cockpit. You sure the boy can handle this? He'll have to, she replied. Ethan climbed aboard. The ship's interior was dim, cold, but clean. Screens lit up as they entered. Lady Arenia touched his shoulder. One last thing. He turned. She held out a thin necklace with a crystal pendant. It shimmered blue when he looked at it. This belonged to Xelu, she said. If you get close enough, it may lead you to him. Ethan took it, then nodded. I'll bring him back. She smiled, but there was pain in her eyes. Just come back alive. The hatch closed. The engines hummed. The stars outside shifted, and the ship vanished into the dark. Into forbidden space. The stars changed. As the stealth ship left the safe zones of the Academy's orbit, the light outside the windows slowly began to fade. What used to be a galaxy full of color now looked like an ocean of shadows. Ethan sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, his eyes scanning the view. Space had never looked this dark. Cal was at the helm, fingers moving across the controls like he'd been born with them. His eyes were focused, cold, and calm. He hadn't spoken much since they left Lady Arenia's estate, except for a single warning. This isn't a school field trip. Don't touch anything unless I say so. Ethan hadn't replied. He just clutched the pendant Arenia gave him, feeling it pulse faintly in his hand. The necklace glowed softly whenever they changed direction, like it was reacting to something out there. So, Cal finally said, breaking the silence, "What's so special about you anyway?" Ethan glanced at him. "I wish I knew." Cal snorted. "That's comforting." The ship shook slightly as they passed through a narrow corridor of space called the Void Spine, a place filled with old debris, satellite husks, and forgotten signals that had no sender. Ethan felt the weight of the silence. Then a sudden loud beep echoed through the ship. Cal's hands moved quickly on the control panel. "We've got movement." Ethan leaned in. "What is it?" Cal didn't answer right away. The ship's screen showed a swarm of small objects closing in from behind. Fast. Silent. Cal cursed under his breath. Sentinels. Are they drones? Worse. They're mind-hacked metal shells, left over from the old war. The eclipsed ones reprogrammed them to patrol dead zones. Ethan's hands tightened around the shard blade. "What do they want?" "You." Without another word, Cal turned the ship hard to the left. spinning through a twisting tunnel of asteroid debris. The stealth engine whined as the ship's cloak flickered for a second, just long enough for a sentinel to fire. A bolt of energy slammed into their right wing. The ship shook. Cale cursed again. Hang on. The entire ship jolted sideways, dodging another bolt. Outside the window, Ethan saw the sentinels, spidery machines with glowing red eyes and long, sharp limbs. They didn't fly. They crawled through space, pulling themselves forward on invisible threads. One of them launched a net of crackling energy. It hit the back of the ship. "Shields are down," Cale shouted. "We need cover." Ethan jumped to his feet. "Let me do something." Cale looked at him, eyes sharp. "You want to die. Sit down." But Ethan didn't listen. He ran to the back of the ship and reached a narrow hatch. The moment he opened it, cold air rushed past him. The cargo bay had a clear view of the attackers. They were getting closer. Ethan gripped the shard blade with both hands. He didn't know exactly how it worked, but something in his gut told him it wanted to be used. He took a deep breath and activated it. The blade glowed, not like normal light, but like starlight trapped in crystal. The air around it shimmered. It felt like time had slowed. Ethan pointed the weapon toward the nearest sentinel. It locked eyes with him and froze. The glow of the blade grew brighter. And then, in a flash of light, the sentinel exploded, vanishing in a puff of shattered metal. Ethan blinked. "Whoa!" Cal's voice crackled through the comms. "Whatever you're doing, do it again." More sentinels crawled closer. Ethan focused. He aimed the blade again. Another blast of energy shot forward like a wave. A second sentinel cracked in half and tumbled into a rock. Suddenly, the rest of them stopped. And then, they retreated. They didn't explode. They didn't fight. They just backed off. One by one, they disappeared into the shadows. Ethan lowered the blade, breathing hard. Cale walked into the bay, eyes wide. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Ethan shrugged. "Just a kid from Earth." Cale stared at him for a second, then nodded slowly. "Remind me not to make you angry." He turned and walked back to the controls. Ethan looked at the shard blade again. It had dimmed, but it was still warm, almost like it was watching him. A few hours later, they reached the Umbra Fold. It wasn't like the rest of space. It was deeper, colder, darker. The stars here didn't shine. They flickered like dying candles. The navigation system kept glitching. Even time seemed slower. "We're here," Cale said. "This is where the portal was opened." Ethan held up the pendant. It started to glow again, brighter this time. "There," he said, pointing. "That moon. It's pulling the light." Cale turned the ship toward it. The moon wasn't really a moon. It was more like a giant shell, broken, hollow, and covered in towers made of black stone. There were no lights, no signals, nothing alive. They landed near the edge of what looked like a collapsed temple. Cale scanned the area. "I'm picking up traces of energy. Someone was here. Recently." Ethan stepped out of the ship and looked around. The air was cold. The wind whispered like voices. His pendant pulsed faster. They walked into the ruin. Each step echoed. At the center, they found a strange machine. It looked like a throne, but someone had strapped a person to it. A boy. A familiar one. "Selu," Ethan gasped. His friend's eyes were closed. His arms were locked in place, and above him floated a cloud of black mist, shifting, swirling. Cale raised his weapon. "That's not normal. That's alive." Ethan took a step forward. The mist turned and formed a face. Not a friendly one. A voice came from it, deep and echoing. "You should not be here, human. This body is not yours to save." Ethan raised his shard blade. "He's my friend. I'm taking him back." The mist laughed. "Then prepare to lose more than just a friend. The possession." The mist above Selu shimmered like smoke made of shadows. It shifted, twisted, and then slowly formed a face. A strange face with hollow eyes, no mouth, and skin that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan froze. Cale raised his weapon and stepped protectively in front of Ethan, but even he looked uncertain. The alien presence in the room wasn't just frightening, it was wrong. Like something that didn't belong in this universe. The voice returned, echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. You do not understand what he carries. You should not have come. Ethan clenched the shard blade tighter. Let him go. He's not yours. The face tilted slightly. It studied Ethan, as if trying to look inside his soul. This vessel is rare, a perfect mix of bloodlines. We found him. We opened the gate. He belongs to us now. Cale whispered to Ethan without looking away. We should leave. This thing isn't just some mind parasite. It's old. Ancient. Ethan shook his head. We're not leaving without Xelu. The mist sank back into Xelu's body. His eyes snapped open. But they weren't normal anymore. The soft purple glow that was part of his Serkai heritage was gone. Now they were pitch black, like twin holes into deep space. He smiled at Ethan, but it wasn't Xelu's smile. Hello, friend. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Xelu, can you hear me? The thing in his body tilted its head. He is here, buried deep, crying, but he can't reach you now. Cale raised his weapon, but Ethan stopped him. Wait, if Xelu's still inside, we can reach him. We can pull him back. Kid, we don't even know what this thing is, Cale growled. You could lose your mind trying. Ethan looked at the shard blade. Its glow had turned pale, dimmer than before. It was reacting to the presence, responding to something ancient. He turned back to the possessed Xelu. What do you want with him? He is the bridge, the creature replied calmly. His blood opens what was once closed. Through him, the eclipsed ones return. Cale swore under his breath. They're trying to resurrect their full power. He's not just a prisoner. He's the key. Ethan took a shaky breath. Then I have no choice. Before Cale could stop him, Ethan stepped forward and pressed the shard blade gently to Xelu's chest. The moment it touched him, everything changed. Inside the mindscape, Ethan wasn't in the ruins anymore. He stood in a swirling world made of shadows and memory. The sky was cracked glass. The ground was floating pieces of dreams. Everything felt unstable. He heard whispers all around him. Familiar voices turned strange. Laughter that suddenly became screaming. Faces appearing and vanishing. Xelu, he shouted. No answer. Ethan moved forward, careful not to fall through the floating floor. He passed through images. His first day at the academy. His first meal with Xelu's family. The day they stole a hoverboard and almost got expelled. Each memory shimmered like light on water, then broke apart. Then came the bad ones. Visions of Xelu in pain. Strapped to machines. Screaming without sound. Ethan flinched. He wanted to look away, but he didn't. He had to find him. Suddenly, the mist formed again, this time as a giant figure towering above him. A dark being made of smoke, stars, and bones. Its voice thundered. You should not have come here, human. This realm does not belong to you. Ethan raised the shard blade. I'm not leaving without my friend. The monster's many hands reached for him, pulling at his thoughts, twisting his memories. He saw a vision. Xelu blaming him, shouting, Why didn't you save me sooner? You left me. You let them take me. Ethan stumbled. No, that's not real. Another memory slammed into him. Lady Arania crying, calling him a failure, saying, I trusted you, and you broke that trust. His knees buckled. The monster leaned closer. Give up. Let us keep him. You are not enough. Then a voice broke through the storm. Ethan. It was weak. Faint. But it was real. Ethan's eyes shot open. Xelu. He turned and saw him, trapped in a cage of glowing lines, floating in the middle of the mindscape. His body was curled up. His eyes were filled with fear. Ethan ran. The monster screamed. It sent waves of black lightning through the dream world, tearing pieces of the ground apart. But Ethan kept going. He reached the cage and raised the shard blade. The light of the weapon flared, stronger than ever. He slashed the glowing lines. The cage shattered. Selu fell into his arms. "I got you," Ethan said, panting. "I'm here." Selu looked up at him, blinking. "You came back." "Always," Ethan whispered. The monster roared one last time, but it was already fading, its power cracking, its shadow melting. "You may have won this moment, but you still do not understand what he is." The voice faded. Back in the real world. Ethan gasped as his eyes snapped open. Selu was lying beside him, unconscious, but breathing. His eyes were normal again. The black mist was gone. The air felt lighter. Kale rushed over. "What happened? Are you both okay?" Ethan nodded slowly. "We found each other." I pulled him out. Kale looked down at Selu, then at the shard blade, which now had a long crack along its surface. "You might have just destroyed the one thing that could save you later." "Worth it," Ethan said, smiling faintly. Kale helped him lift Selu onto his back. "Let's get him to the ship. This place gives me nightmares." As they left the temple, Ethan looked up at the stars. Something still felt off. The creature's final words echoed in his mind. "You still do not understand what he is." He looked down at Selu, resting now. "What are you hiding, buddy?" he whispered. The mind duel. The journey back to the ship was silent. Kale walked ahead, watching the shadows, scanning for any sign of danger. Ethan followed behind, carrying Selu on his back. The weight wasn't the hard part. It was the silence. Selu wasn't waking up. He breathed. His skin was warm, but his mind was still far away. Ethan laid him gently on one of the medical beds inside the ship. He sat beside him, holding the cracked shard blade in his lap. The weapon no longer glowed. Its light had vanished. Maybe it had given all it had to free Selu, or maybe the fight wasn't really over. Kale leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He should have woken up by now. Ethan nodded slowly. "I think part of him is still trapped." Kale sighed. "So what? You want to go back in?" "I don't think I have a choice." Kale tossed him a metal bracelet. "Put this on. Neural anchor. It'll keep your body from frying itself if things go wrong." Ethan slipped it on and placed his hand gently on Selu's forehead. The pendant Lady Arania gave him pulsed once, and the world shifted again. Inside the mind. Again. Ethan dropped into a storm. Wind howled across a gray field of nothing. Lightning cracked in the sky above, but it wasn't normal lightning. It moved sideways, like it was running away from something. The ground beneath him cracked and shattered as he walked. This was different from before. Darker, louder, more unstable. And then he saw Selu. He wasn't in a cage this time. He was standing in the middle of a battlefield made from their memories. One moment, they stood in the cafeteria sharing laughs. The next, they were hiding from punishment after sneaking into the flight simulator bay. Then, suddenly, Selu stood alone in a dark classroom, staring at empty chairs. All the memories were twisted, broken, like someone had turned the volume too high and the colors inside out. Ethan stepped forward. "Selu." His friend turned. But it wasn't that Selu he remembered. This version of Selu looked older. His eyes were dull. His skin was paler. His mouth was tight, like he had stopped smiling long ago. "Why are you here?" he asked coldly. Ethan blinked. "To bring you home. You don't belong here." Selu looked around at the chaos. "This is what I am now." "No," Ethan said firmly. "This is what they tried to make you." Selu frowned. "What if it's the truth?" Ethan felt the mindscape around them pulse. Suddenly, dozens of ghostly versions of Selu appeared, each one broken, crying, screaming. They echoed past failures, lost battles, regrets. They showed me everything, Selu said. The war, my father's secrets, what I might become. What you might become, Ethan echoed, not what you have to become. A new voice entered the storm, a cruel, familiar one. He understands now, it whispered. He knows the truth, that he was made for more than friendship or peace. He was built for conquest. Ethan turned. The shadow from before appeared again, this time larger. Its form was twisted like vines choking a dying tree. Its voice poured over them like oil. Let him go, little human. Let him become what he was born to be. The next gate, the final key. Ethan stood firm. You're lying. You always lie. The creature moved closer. Greater than you think you're saving him. But you're only delaying what must happen. The galaxy will fear him when they see what flows in his blood. Selu looked down at his hands. They were glowing. His veins lit up like fire beneath his skin. They told me who I really am. Ethan moved closer, ignoring the storm, ignoring the monster. And I don't care, he said. You're still my best friend. The wind stopped. The other Xelis disappeared like smoke. Selu looked up, eyes full of pain. What if I hurt people, Ethan? What if this thing comes back through me? Then I'll stand in the way, Ethan said. The shadow screamed. Enough. If he won't accept his truth, then you will pay. It lunged forward, forming a giant claw, slashing at Ethan. Selu stepped between them. The claw hit him and shattered into light. The shadow began to fall apart, its form breaking like sand in wind. Ethan caught Selu as he stumbled. You did it. You fought back. Selu smiled weakly. Took me long enough. The storm faded. The battlefield dissolved. And light filled the world. Back in the ship, Ethan's eyes opened. Selu's eyes fluttered open too. They both sat up at the same time. Kale blinked. I was this close to pulling your plugs. Glad I didn't. Selu rubbed his head. Everything's quieter now. Ethan nodded. That thing, it's gone. Or at least locked out. Kale handed Ethan a bottle of water. Good, because we've got another problem. He pointed to a blinking screen. A ship was approaching. Not just any ship. A royal cruiser. Sirkai design. Armed and angry. Selu stood slowly. That's my mother's crest. But that's not her ship. The screen crackled to life. A face appeared, pale like Selu's, but colder, sharper. The man spoke. You've broken the veil. You've unlocked what should have stayed buried. Prepare to be taken into custody for the protection of the entire galaxy. The screen went black. Kale whistled. Well, looks like word's out. Selu turned to Ethan. They know I'm different now, and they're scared. Ethan nodded. Then we need to show them they're wrong. Kale cracked his knuckles. Or, we show them we're not afraid. The truth about Selu. The royal cruiser hovered in orbit like a quiet threat. Ethan, Selu, and Kale stood in the narrow control room of their ship, watching the enemy vessel through the main screen. It was massive, 10 times the size of their small stealth craft. Its sharp silver armor reflected nothing. Not the light, not the stars, not even hope. This is bad, Kale said, adjusting the scanner. That's not just a patrol ship. It's a war-class dreadnought. If they fire, we won't even have time to say goodbye. Ethan looked at Selu. Can your mother really do this? Send someone to capture you. Selu didn't answer. His eyes were focused on the crest spinning in the corner of the cruiser's hail screen. His family's crest. A serpent wrapped around a double star. Then the message came through again. To the occupants of the unregistered vessel, you are harboring a Class A threat. Lower your shields. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be seen as an act of war. Kale growled. Well, I was hoping for a warm welcome. Selu finally spoke. That voice, it's not my mother. It's my uncle, Lord Vekor. Ethan turned. Who's he? Selu's expression darkened. A noble, powerful, always wanted the family throne. He hated my father and never trusted humans. Kale folded his arms. Then he'll definitely hate you. There was silence in the control room. Then Selu turned to Ethan. There's something I haven't told you. Something I just learned, but always felt. Ethan nodded. I'm listening. Selu took a deep breath. My father, the one I thought died in an accident, he wasn't Serkai. Ethan tilted his head. He wasn't. Selu shook his head. He was human. Kale coughed. Wait, what? Ethan blinked. But you've got powers. Mind linking. Vision sight. The Serkai glow. I have both, Selu said quietly. My body is Serkai. My mind, human touched. That's why the cult wanted me. I'm not just a bridge. I'm proof. Proof of what? Ethan asked. That humans and Serkai can be one. That our blood can mix. That we're not enemies, not threats. That we can grow stronger together. Kel's voice lowered. And your uncle wants to erase that proof. Selu nodded. He always feared it. If the people find out what I am, what I truly am, they won't be afraid anymore. They'll begin to question the old lies, the divisions, the history they were told. Ethan looked down at the cracked shard blade. Then we have to make a choice. Run, or tell the truth. Zelu's eyes met his. If we run, they'll keep hunting me. If we speak, they might kill us. But at least we die with purpose. Kale groaned. You both are terrible at pep talks. The screen blinked again. The cruiser was launching smaller ships now, boarding pods. They were running out of time. Ethan stood up. Let's do this. Kale raised an eyebrow. Do what exactly? We tell the galaxy, Ethan said. Right now. Kale laughed. And broadcast it from where? Selu looked at the controls. There's a communication array buried under the ruins we just left. Ancient tech, before the Accord. Still strong. Still untraceable. Ethan grinned. Then let's light it up. Back on the moon ruins. The wind had picked up. Dust swirled across the black stones as the trio moved fast. Kale carrying the last power cell, Ethan and Selu dragging cables and signal boosters. The broken temple stood like the bones of a giant. They found the console deep underground, behind a cracked wall. Kale slammed the power cell into place. The ancient systems buzzed to life, flickering with alien runes. Ethan adjusted the signal booster and pointed it to the stars. Okay, tell me this thing works. Selu touched the glowing screen. It does. But I have to speak now. Once it starts, I can't take it back. Ethan nodded. Then don't hold back. Selu stepped forward and looked into the tiny lens built into the console. His voice was steady, even as his hands trembled. The broadcast. To all systems. My name is Selu Arenka, son of Lady Arenya of the Serkai house. I was born from two worlds. One Serkai, one human. They told you humans were dangerous, untrustworthy, that we were better apart, that we could not live beside each other without fear. But I am here to tell you, those are lies. I am both. I am living proof that together, we are stronger. There are those who will try to silence me, to erase me, to make you fear what I am. But fear is the enemy, not humans, not unity. I speak not as a prince, not as a soldier, but as a friend. A boy with two hearts, beating for peace. The message ended. There was silence. Kale looked up at the stars. Now we wait. Ethan sat down next to Selu. You okay? Selu exhaled. No, but I'm glad it's done. Moments later, the ship's long-range comms started blinking. Incoming transmissions, 17 systems. then 32, then 91. Messages began flooding in, some in support, some in confusion, some in anger. But one stood out. A video call. It was Lady Arenya. Her face appeared, proud and calm. "Silu, I saw your message. You've done something I never had the courage to do." "Mother." "No, listen to me. You are my son. Nothing changes that. I stand with you." Then her voice turned serious. "But your uncle will not. He's coming now, with fire and fury." Zelu's face hardened. "Then we'll be ready." Ethan stood. Together. Kale chuckled. "Well, I hope you boys like space battles." We stand together. The sky was no longer empty. From the shadows of nearby planets, ships began to emerge, one by one, system by system. Some were old trade vessels, patched with mismatched hulls. Others were sleek and armed. They came from human colonies, from SciFi border worlds, even from systems that hadn't spoken to each other in generations, all answering one message. Zelu's message. Ethan stood at the observation deck of the stealth ship, watching with wide eyes. "They're actually coming," he whispered. "They heard you." Zelu stood beside him, silent, his expression unreadable. Behind them, Kale adjusted the ship's weapons grid. Kale muttered, "We might still be toast. Vekor's dreadnought is powered by a dark core engine. That thing could vaporize moons." Ethan turned to Zelu. "We're not here to beat him with fire. We're here to show the galaxy something stronger." "Hope?" Kale asked, smirking. Zelu nodded. "And unity." Above the moon. The first strike. Lord Vekor's dreadnought entered orbit like a storm cloud, silent, cold, and enormous. His fleet followed, casting long shadows over the ruins below. From the center of the ship, Vekor's voice echoed across every open frequency. "This is your final warning. You are harboring a hybrid traitor. Surrender him, and no harm will come to the rest of you." Ethan clicked on their transmitter. "Not gonna happen." Kale added, "Also, terrible lie. You were totally going to blow us up." The enemy ships began to move. Zelu stepped up. "Broadcast this." Kale nodded and turned on their signal again. Zelu looked into the camera, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I am both SciFi and human, and I'm proud of it. If that makes me a traitor, then I am not alone. Everyone who believes in something better, stand with us now." For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then, one ship lit up its signal beacon. Then another. Then hundreds more. And together, they moved, forming a wall between the dreadnought and the ruins. The battle begins. Vekor was furious. "Burn them." His ships opened fire. Blazing energy tore through space. The peaceful fleet shuddered, but held their line. They didn't fire back. Not at first. Kale looked at Ethan. "We're going to need to return fire eventually." Zelu nodded. "Only if they leave us no choice." A drone ship flew toward the ruins, fast and armed. Kale growled. "That's it. That one's mine." He took manual control and launched their only long-range torpedo. It slammed into the drone before it could land, scattering metal across the sky. From nearby ships, defensive shields powered up. Non-lethal pulse beams fired. Just enough to disable Vekor's smaller ships, just enough to show they were serious. Then, something happened no one expected. A SciFi captain from Vekor's own fleet turned. His ship reversed course, and he sent a message. "We will not fire on a child born of peace." That was all it took. More ships broke ranks. Some dropped weapons. Others joined the protective wall. Vekor's dreadnought was suddenly alone. He screamed, slamming his fists on the command deck. "Fools! That will poison our future." But no one listened anymore. The galaxy had made its choice. The final move. Vekor activated the dreadnought's core, a super weapon powered by psionic energy. The sky turned red. The stars dimmed. "He's going to destroy the entire moon," Kale shouted, "with all of us on it." Ethan looked to Xelu. "Is there anything we can do?" Xelu's eyes closed. He placed his hand on the shard blade, still cracked but faintly glowing again. "I think I can stop him," he said. Kale stepped forward. "Kid, what does that mean?" "I can use the same link he's drawing power from, the same hybrid force he fears." Ethan grabbed his arm. "But if you link too hard, that thing inside you might come back." Xelu looked at him and smiled. "Not if I hold on to who I am. Not if I remember you." He closed his eyes and reached out. The psionic duel. Inside the psionic realm, Vekor stood like a shadow giant, drawing energy from pain, fear, and division. The mind space warped around him. But Xelu entered like a light. Not alone this time. Behind him stood Ethan. Together, they stood in front of Vekor's power. "You cannot stop what has already begun," Vekor growled. "You're right," Xelu said. "You already lost." He released a wave of energy, not from anger, but from truth, from love, from connection. Images burst through the realm. Ethan giving him his first Earth book, Kale saving them from sentinels, his mother's face smiling with pride. These were not weapons. They were memories. And they shattered the darkness. Vekor screamed and vanished. Victory. The dreadnought's weapon core overloaded. Instead of exploding, it shut down. Systems fried. The ship fell still. Across the galaxy, broadcasts played back Xelu's speech. And now, the final image. Vekor's power fading, not from battle, but from peace. Ships began sending in cheers, banners of unity, and calls for open dialogue between worlds. The war had not begun. It had ended before it started. Epilogue. A new path. Weeks later, on the floating gardens of Surkai Prime, Xelu and Ethan stood side by side as diplomats. Teachers and children from many worlds walked among the trees. No weapons, no uniforms, just people. Lady Arenia approached. She hugged her son tightly. "I'm proud of you," she whispered, "and of the boy who stood by you." Ethan grinned. Not just a boy. Best friend in the galaxy. Kale strolled by with a snack in each hand. "Let me know when someone writes a book about this. I want royalties." They all laughed. Xelu turned to Ethan. "So, what now?" Ethan shrugged. "Whatever we want. We made it." Xelu nodded. Together. And above them, the stars seemed a little brighter.